Shalom, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Bahasham Racha Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Akian. This is the book of Psalms 9, verse 16. Yahweh is known by the judgments which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hand. Higayon Selah. And the title of this video will be The Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh knows exactly how to catch you, or rather exactly how to ensnare you. Okay, be humble. And what this is just going to go into is, or rather what we are going into is, basic examples in the scriptures. After all, we know that that's what the scriptures are for. Okay, the reading of the scriptures, whatever is written aforetime or written for our learning, right? So that way, through patience and faith in the book, which is the scriptures, might have hope. Roughly paraphrasing, just going to go through some examples in the scriptures, mainly focusing on second Maccabees, the ninth chapter, okay, which of course, you can already know what that is going into, okay, the death or the final moments of Antiochus Epiphanes, okay, or rather Antiochus the fourth, which his surname was Epiphanes, okay. And this is just showing you the power of the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, that truly the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai is the only, is the power that rules over the earth, the only almighty power, okay. So this is the book of Second Maccabees 9. I just have to go through the whole thing, but the point that we are going to get across is relevant enough for us to read the entire chapter, okay. Because this is just showing you how the Most High can ensnare these few people out here in the world, okay? And even us that are in the truth as well, he knows exactly the kind of judgments to give to completely deflate any ego or pride that you have. So this is the book of Second Maccabees 9, verse 1. About that time came Antiochus with dishonor out of the country of Persia, for he had entered the city called Persepolis, and went about to rob the temple, and to hold the city, whereupon the multitude running to defend themselves with their weapons put them to flight. And so it happened that Antiochus, being put to flight, to the inhabitants returned with shame. Now when he came to Ecbatane, news was brought him what had happened unto Nicanor and Timotheus. And if you want to know more about that, you can read the previous chapters, okay? Because basically what happened is that, the Maccabees, they put in work. Let's put it like that, okay? And you had these men that were talking shit. This is also part of the humbling, of course. You had all these men that were talking shit about putting our people in captivity, talking shit about selling our lands and selling our people and so on and so forth. And the Most High, came through for our people, okay, through the hand of the Maccabees, okay, the sons of the Maccabees, Judas, the second Judas, okay, because now this is the book of Second Maccabees, okay, and so on and so forth. But not really going to go into that. Let's continue on from verse 4 now. Second Maccabees 9, verse 4. Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews the disgrace done unto him by those that made him flee. Therefore commanded he his chariot men to drive without ceasing, and to dispatch the journey. The judgment of the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai now following him. For he had spoken proudly in this sort, that he would come to Jerusalem and make it a common burying place of the Jews. But Yahweh Almighty, the power of Israel, smote him with an incurable and invisible plague. Or as soon as he had spoken these words, a pain of the bowels that was remediless came upon him, and sore torments of the inner parts. So basically, you had Antiochus, Epiphanes, after hearing about what happened to his own people, okay, Nicanor, and it was more than just Nicanor and Timotheus. After they had been defeated by the Maccabees, he wanted to have revenge, and basically, he wanted to put all of our people to death, okay. So the Most High struck him with a plague, you know, a stomach infection. They don't really, if you go into the historical records, they don't really give detail about what happened. They just tell you that, oh, he died mysteriously, right? Not wanting to give the credit to the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, even going as far as to say, They believe the reason why they died is because he attacked that Persian temple instead of what he tried to do against our people, okay? Because this is how Esau Edom works, man. He will how the scripture go? Though favor be shown to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness will he not, deal righteously and not behold the face of the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. So if even Esau Edom knowing exactly what happened to to Antiochus as well. That's their ancestor right there. So I guess they are they're a little pissed off about the judgment that he received. But even Esau Edom knowing exactly what happened to Antiochus Epiphanes because it's written right here in the scriptures, they still won't give that credit to the Most High. Okay, but continuing on from verse 6 now, and that most justly he had tormented other men's bowels with many and strange torments. This is of course going into the tortures that the Greeks and the Romans, those Edomites, were infamous for. But anyway, continuing on from verse 7 now. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but still filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, and commanding to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot and carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his bodies were much pained. Okay, so he was still proud. He still wanted to he still wanted to get our people and destroy our people. So the Most High decided to bring more judgments upon him. You see a pattern here. And as the scriptures say, let's get that. As the scriptures say, pride cometh before a fall, right? And it's ironic because he literally fell off his chariot. Let's get that. I believe that's actually in the scriptures. I forget which precepts you have to. Here it is safe. They even wrote that for us. Okay. Top of the top of the options. Proverbs 16, verse 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. And because of the pride that had exceedingly consumed, this devil right here, Antiochus Epiphanes, because when you're talking about Antiochus, that is the Antiochus that he's speaking about, Epiphanes the fourth, which is basically, the most infamous member of the Seleucid dynasty because of the wickedness that he did against our people. And he was doing it all over. But of course, how Esau is. He always has to have a little bit of extra. He always adds a little bit of extra for Jake, okay? For you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, okay? Anyway, continuing on, okay, and I say that a lot, but there's a lot to unpack from just this precept right here because you see a lot of things happening, okay, even though it's just the judgment of a single king. There's a lot of history, a lot of background going into it, and this is why we deal with the Apocrypha, and this is why the Apocrypha was taken out of the Bible, so that you wouldn't be able to connect all this history and all this prophecy back to Esau Edom, okay? So that's the main reason why it was taken out. You go into books like Esdras and even this book of Maccabees, and it clearly shows you that Esau Edom has to be the devil, okay? Because it's linking too many things together in prophecy that these devils don't want to reveal. Okay, but let's read on. So yeah, I talked about a fall. Okay. Now Second Maccabees 9 verse 8. And thus he that a little afore thought he might command the waves of the sea. So proud was he beyond the condition of man, and weighed the high mountains in a balance, was now cast on the ground and carried in a horse litter, showing forth unto all the manifest power of the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. And you see what the scriptures say, how proud he was that he thought that he could basically like he thought that he could control the seas, man. He thought that he could weigh the mountains, showing you the pride of this devil, man. This is actually ridiculous right now. What I'm reading, okay? You see how you see the level of big headedness, okay? Let me see it like that. You see, okay, the ego that this devil had. He really thought he was the shit. But anyway, Second Maccabees 9 verse 9, so that the worms rose out of the body of this wicked man, and whilst he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army. Down. So the Most High was basically making this disease eat him from the inside out to the point where his body was actually rotting away while he was still alive. Now had the foul smell again. From verse 10 now. And the man that thought a little afore he could reach to the stars of heaven, no man could endure to carry for his intolerable stink. Here, therefore, being plagued, he began to leave off his great pride and to come to the knowledge of himself by the scourge of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh. His pain increasing every moment. And this is the main point that we're getting into right now, When the nigga, when the Edomites got humbled real quick, okay? Because when he went through all that torment of the stomach pains, the skin peeling from his flesh, the intolerable stink, because he could smell himself. He knew exactly what he smelled like, and he had to live with that smell. And even more so, man, this devil couldn't walk anymore. Okay, he had to be carried from place to place because that's how bad the pain was. Because it wasn't just in his stomach. Okay, it was all over his body that he was feeling this pain, man. He had to be carried from place to place, okay? So when that happened to him, all his pride disappeared, okay? And he started to humble himself to the Most High. And you actually that have read this precept, you know what I'm talking about, okay? You know how this devil started humbling himself, started talking about they started to left off from all the shit he was talking, man, and started to humble himself even before the Maccabees, before our people, and most especially before the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay, now continuing on from verse 13 now. This wicked person vowed also unto Yahweh, who now no more would have mercy upon him, saying thus, that the holy city to the which he was going in haste to lay it even with the ground, and to make it a common burying place, he would set at liberty. And as touching the Jews, whom he judged not worthy to so much to be as to be buried, but to be cast out with their children, to be devoured of the fowls and wild beasts, he would make them all equals to the citizens of Athens. And the holy temple, which before he had spoiled, he would garnish with goodly gifts and restore all the holy vessels with many more out of his own revenue, defray the charges belonging to the sacrifice. Yea, and that also he would become a Jew himself and go through all the world that was inhabited and declare the power of the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. But for all this, his pains would not cease. For the just judgment of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, was come upon him. Therefore, despairing of his health, he wrote unto the Jews the letter underwritten, containing the form of a supplication after this manner. Antiochus, king and governor, to the good Jews, his citizens, which wisheth much joy, health, and prosperity. If ye and your children fare well, and your affairs be to your contentment, I give very great thanks to the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, having my hope in heaven. So like yeah, you see how much the Most High humbled this man, man, from all the hate, all the anger that he had for our people, man, to the point that he was charging straight to Judea, with the intent of just wiping out everybody. Now he's coming all humble, seeing writing letter, remembering all his manners, okay, showing you that, showing you how bad his situation was. And the funny thing is that this devil, he knew exactly who did this to him, okay? There wasn't a situation where he was like, what the hell is happening to me? Trying to be confused and asking questions, and then somebody had to come up and be like, look, Antiochus, this is happening to you because you angered the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. No, when it happened, he knew immediately which God he pissed off, okay? He wasn't going to the Persians. He wasn't going to the Elamites, okay? All the other nations that he was warring with. He knew that it was the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai that was doing this to him, okay? And that's why he was trying to suck up, he was trying to kiss the ass of the Maccabees and the Jews, okay? And most importantly, the ass of the most, he was trying to kiss up to the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, when that happened to him. And this is another point too as well, another question for vocab. Why didn't the Most High have mercy on Antiochus Epiphanes in this situation? Look how humble he's coming. Look how humble he is right here. So if salvation is universal, okay, if the Most High was actually dealing with all the nations, why didn't the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai have mercy on Antiochus right here? because this isn't just some fairy tale or some fable that was just imagined by some author somewhere in the Middle East. Okay, this is actual verifiable history. There are records that this happened. Okay, there are records on Antiochus the Epiphanes that he fought with the Maccabees, he fought with the Jews, and that this is exactly how he died. Okay, of course, Esau won't go into details about this, but just say that, oh, it was mysterious circumstances. Okay, but you know that the story concerning how he died, from the invasion of Persia, from the fact that he was actually defeated and forced to run away with his tail between his legs. Okay, those records are there. So this actually happened. Okay, but anyway, we know that these Christians won't give us any answers concerning these things. So we'll continue reading on. Okay, but you can clearly see here that Antiochus, this proud ass devil, man, so proud that he thought himself to be the same as Yahweh Bashami or Shai, is being humbled. Okay, now he's showing respect. He's showing he's showing the respect that he was supposed to have shown from the beginning to the Most High. Okay, but the Most High doesn't care about all that. Remember Ecclesiasticus 12 verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, man. And you know that the Most High really wanted to put this devil to death because he didn't even give him a place. He didn't even listen or hear his prayers, or decide to decide to just use him to test our people, whether we would he did not use him to test the Maccabees or our people during that time, whether they would actually agree and convert him. Okay, so that he would eventually betray them again, like these devils are so famous for. Okay, he just put him to death one time. He wasn't even trying to hear all the nonsense that was coming out of his mouth that he was writing about. Okay, and we know that this devil didn't really repent. Okay, he was saying all that to try to preserve his life, because at the end of the day, like I said, those favor will be shown to the wicked, right? Continuing on, Second Maccabees 9 verse 19 now. Antiochus, king and governor to the good Jews, his citizens, wisheth much joy, health, and prosperity. If ye and your children fare well, and your affairs be to your contentment, I give very great thanks to the Most High, having my hope in heaven. As for me, I was weak, or else I would have remembered kindly your honor and goodwill returning out of Persia and being taken with a grievous disease. I felt it necessary to care for the common safety of all. Man, see how this devil is change mouth when they are you see how this devil is change mouth. When he was coming out of Persia, he was looking for blood, man. He was trying to destroy our people. But now he's talking about the good health and common safety of all. Anyway, from verse 22 now. Not distrusting mine health, but having great hope to escape this sickness. But considering that even my father, at what time he led an army into the high countries, appointed a successor, to the end that if anything fell out contrary to expectation, or if any tidings were brought that were grievous, they of the land, knowing to whom the state was left, might not be troubled. Again, considering how that the princes that are borderers and neighbors unto my kingdom wait for opportunities and expect what shall be the event, I have appointed my son Antiochus king, and that should be Eupator, Antiochus the fifth Eupator, whom I often committed and commended unto many of you, when I went up into the high provinces, to whom I have written as followeth. Therefore I pray and request you to remember the benefits that I have done unto you generally, and in special, and that every man will be still faithful to me and my son. For I am persuaded that he, understanding my mind, will favorably and graciously yield your desires. Thus the murderer and blasphemer, having suffered most grievously, as he entreated other men, so died he a miserable death in a strange country in the mountains. And Philip, that was brought up with him, carried away his body, who also, fearing the son of Antiochus, went on into Egypt to Ptolemy's Philometor. Okay, and thus is the end of this devil, Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, and you can read more details about this, okay, more of the history about this by going into the Maccabees yourself, okay. But for the sake of time, we're going to go into more, okay, because this is not the only individual that was humbled heavy by the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. Okay, there's more. And now we're going to go into the book of Daniel and notice that we are bringing out rulers, kings of men, and these are the ones that are being humbled by Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai to show you that So this is the book of Daniel 4, verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. Okay, that's all this is about, showing that the Most High truly is the ruler over the whole earth, okay, and he gives the kingdom, gives the world to whomever he will. But at the end of the day, the power still belongs to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, okay. And sometimes the Most High has to remind these proud ass people out here, okay, you proud people out here that think that it's all you, that you are doing all of this with your own power, okay, and not of the power of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushua, as it is written, right? It's not by power nor by might, but by my spirit, saith Yahweh of hosts, right? That should be the book of Zechariah. That is how it is being done, okay? So this is just this lesson, okay? This warning out to you people. The Most High knows exactly how to send His judgments upon you to humble you heavy. Okay, so it's best you stay in that humble state and remember who is really in charge. Okay, who is really in charge. So now I just want to read this Daniel the fourth chapter. Okay, I want to read this one. Going into Nebuchadnezzar and also going into his grandson as well, Nebuzaradan. I believe that was his name, or was it Belshazzar? I think it was Belshazzar. Okay, I forget the name. But I'll start from this one, Daniel 4. I want to see. Okay, I want to see. Okay, here it is. Daniel 4, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I rather notice how when the Most High humble these people, man, they suddenly start getting generous, okay? And then they start, when the Most High humbles these kings, they start getting generous, and they start being all cautious and manner and cautious, and they start having manners, okay? Especially when they are writing to other people. But now, Daniel 4 verse 2, I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high power hath wrought towards me. How great are his signs and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my power, of, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy powers is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee. Tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of mine heard in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruits, Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know, and the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof. For as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy powers is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of heaven and had their habitation. It is thou, O king, thou art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown and reached unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and an holy one come down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee, after that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquity by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar at the end of 12 months. He walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power, and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagles' feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. And this is what befell Nebuchadnezzar, okay, and Esau, Edom. Today he calls this type of plague of the heart, basically madness, insanity, lycanthropy. Okay, when you have when the mind of a man, okay, is removed from you, and you are given the mind of an animal. When you believe that you are an animal, it's called lycanthropy. Okay, so we'll jump on down to when it was removed from him. Daniel 4, verse 34. And at the end of days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And now you see more of the humbling, okay? You get too proud. The most high, the most high puts his judgments upon you, okay? And then and then the humbling begins, okay? So this is it right here. The most high can show you, and we have more, okay? We have more. Okay, this is even it's here. Daniel 5. So this is the book of Daniel 5, verse 1. Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father, actually his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that was taken out of the temple of the house of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh, which was at Jerusalem. And the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver and of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone, which should actually be idols here, but whatever. From verse 5, in the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. And it shows you just how terrifying that sight was. For the king's knees to be shaking like that to the point where they were hitting each other, man. And that this guy actually, he might have actually pissed himself seeing this sight, man, because he says that the joints of his loins were loose. But as it doesn't mention it here, you can just extrapolate, okay? Just imagine that this actually happens, okay? That's another thing that we teach, that the others and the apostles teach, that you have to actually see what you are reading, okay? So you have to imagine these things happening as they are happening, as they are reading through them. You have to be able to envision them. And that's basically what I'm doing right now, reading through all this, okay? Seeing how proud these kings were, thinking that they were rulers over all the earth, rulers over all the known worlds. And just for the Most High, however, Hashem will try to humble them and show them that He's the one that is really in charge. And they got the message, okay? It wasn't as though they hardened their heart or they were stubborn and the Most High had to put more and more plagues on them. The Most High just touched them once, okay? And they realized that they are not it, okay? That is the Most High that is the true power. And and how did it go again? I forgot the movie, but basically I forgot the movie. That Denzel was saying, you know, how did it go? He said, "I run shit here. You just live here." And they realized that the Most High that is running, that is in control, and they just live on the earth, okay? Anyway, continuing on. Daniel 5 verse 7. I was in New Jack City. I forgot the name of that movie, man. Daniel 5 verse 7. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his lord were astonished. Now the king, by reason of the words of the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banquet house, and the queen spake and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor let thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy power, and in the days of thy father light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, the idols, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar thy father, the king, I say, thy father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, in whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. And this is another thing right here. Why didn't Daniel try to convert the Babylonians? Since they saw the power of the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai firsthand, why didn't he try to convert them? Why were they still involved in their idol worship? This is a question for vocab right now. Why was Daniel still letting the Babylonians worship idols when he knew that he was serving the one true power and the gods that they were worshiping didn't exist? Okay? Once again, because this truth, the covenants, the giving of the law, so on and so forth, are only for the Israelites. Now continuing on. Daniel 5 verse 13. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel which art of the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee, and that light and understanding are excellent, and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men, astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not shew the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of thee, that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now, if thou canst read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O thou king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would he slew, and whom he would he kept alive, and whom he would he set up, and whom he would he put down. But when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him, and he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. And thou his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart, though thou knowest all this, but hast lifted up thyself against Yahweh of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the gods of silver, and of gold, and of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. And that's the main reason why the Babylonian Empire fell right here, because you can go into the history, you can look it up, okay, and they will tell you that the Babylonian Empire fell during a festival, in which the Babylonian king at that time, which is this self same Belshazzar, okay. And how does the Apostle Taha say it again? It was a silent coup or something like that, a silent coup. I forget how the Apostle Taha said it, but basically, I think it's surgical strike, surgical strike, okay, in which the kingdom was transferred from the hand of the Babylonians into the hand of the Medo-Persians with very little bloodshed, okay. And if you read on down, it will tell you how Darius became the new king, Darius the Mede, right? Which is going into the rise of the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, now continue. And the reason why this happened is because they were using the gold and the silver of the temple of the Most High Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai to not only drink and serve and to praise all these other idols, all these false idols, but no praises for the Most High came out of this man's mouth, So the Most High, put that judgment on him and humbled him, okay, because he was put to death. He was put to death. He was put to death, okay, during that rebellion. So continuing on from verse 24. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written: Mene mene tekel oparsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Okay, and if I remember correctly, Mene means to number, Tekel means to weigh, and Perez means to divide. Okay, and once again, prophecy and history being lined up, okay, because the transition of the empires from the Assyrians to the Babylonians, okay, to the Medo-Persians, to the Greeks, to the Romans, and to the continuation of the Roman Empire, which we are living in today. So the Most High Yahweh Shai once again is on point, okay. Daniel 5 verse 29. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And he was the third ruler for a couple of hours before the kingdom, basically came to an end, and it became the kingdom of the Medo-Persians. Okay. In that, and now Daniel 5 verse 13. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. And once again, you can go into the history. The night when the Babylonian Empire fell, okay, the night when Darius became king. This was what happened during that night, okay. But as usual, instead of Esau to give the praise to Yahweh Ba'asham for bringing down the Babylonian Empire so quickly, okay, in that surgical strike using Darius the Mede, he just tells you about how the surgical strike and Darius the Mede became king. How Darius was basically, you know, how Darius was basically setting up this kingdom for his rulership or for his takeover. Okay, by basically gaining the support of the people and taking the support of the people from Belshazzar, slowly transitioning the kingdom to himself. And the final transition happened during this period. But what actually happened was the Most High, took the kingdom from the hand of the Babylonians and gave it to the Medo-Persians. And that is what happened, okay, because of their pride, okay, because they refused to humble themselves before the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh. So once again, the Most High knows exactly how to catch you, man. And the Most High knows exactly how to judge you, especially for your pride. So be humble, okay? So with that, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash, Wa Abad Babal, Shalom.